Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Keep the Mic On. I am your host, Simply Sherry, and as you know, every week since the start of the quarantine, we have been here to and having in conversation with artists of all disciplines, all forms of art, just to get to know the artist better. We've been told that this has been sort of a master class in art because these are the people that are really doing the thing. My week is called From Behind the Microphone, where I take the time to get to know the poets behind the poems, because poets and artists are people too. I'm going to kick it to the girl genius.
Hey everyone, I am Danielle Reed, also known as Girl Genius. It's great to be with you this week. My week, I do a segment called Let's Talk About the Book, where I get usually an author and pick their brains about their book, their writing process, and all the things that go with it. My week is first week of the month, so I was last week, so I am very excited to come off of that week and into this week because I am excited about our next guest. Yay! I believe Kaniki
is having issues trying to get logged in. I'm resending her the link right now.
I was about to say I will hold off a second introducing her because she's trying to work her way into the room.
And while we're waiting, I do want to make mention that we do also like to shout out our former guests here on when something new and fun comes up.
Yes.
Kevin Jackson, our feature from last August, his newest single called Elevation just released on all social media platforms. If you go to all music platforms, if you go to our page, Keep the Mic On, you can get a copy of where to find the link and everything. The song is amazing. The new CD drops in August. Another former feature, actually our first feature outside of one of us, I believe, was Vision Poet. Don't look for the video. Don't look for any information because none of it exists. But he is competing. Trash Trapeze Theater is up for an award, and you have to vote for it. So I'm going to put that information also on Keep the Mic On. If you are not familiar with Trash Trapeze Theater and that whole amazing thing that is, you definitely want to find that on YouTube. He will be back with us in August to talk about it all again. So I'm very excited. I am going to kick it to tonight's host. And as soon as Kaniki comes in, we will let her introduce. But I'm going to go ahead and kick it to tonight's host, Charity Blackwell.
Yay! Woo, woo, woo. Make some noise for Charity Blackwell. Oh my gosh. Thank y'all. Thank you on Facebook, everyone tuning in. Thank you, everybody on YouTube Live who are tuning in tonight. Yes, my name is Charity Blackwell. I am 1/4 of the collective of Keep the Mic On, and I am the host of the night called Art Therapy Edition. So I like to interview artists who use art as a form of healing, whether that is for themselves and or as the people that they are listening to their art. I have interviewed musicians, literally artists, painters, but mostly my main folks that I like to focus on are people that I can relate to, which are spoken word artists. And we've had some really awesome ones come through. And we have a really awesome one that is with us tonight. I was introduced to this artist for the first time actually this year at our first slam to open up at the Busboys and Poets location, 14th and V, since COVID. And it was an awesome experience. I didn't get a chance to really chop it up with them, but I'm really looking forward to chopping it up with them right now. And right before I bring them on, do a little something. I want to check on the backstage to make sure Kaniki isn't here before I get the ball rolling. Is Kaniki in the backstage? Actually, I'm not host, so I can't tell. I'm asking Danielle or Sherry. Is Kaniki in the backstage? Or Kaniki, is she here? I don't know what she's saying. Yep. She muted.
Yes, I'm bad today. I am bad today. No, Kaniki hasn't made it in yet. Hopefully she will make it soon.
Cool. All goody. Thank you. All right. So this is how my night works. I like to ask questions that takes a deeper dive into our poets' style of writing, their purpose of writing, some of their experiences, and how writing has deeply impacted them and in a positive way. Also, how writing may have pulled them out of some dark spaces and maybe have impacted some people in their lives. Because I know for me, writing is something that has definitely been a huge impact for my healing process. I do go to therapy as well, but writing has absolutely been an avenue for me to feel like I can express myself in a super healthy way. So with that being said, everybody drum roll, please. And if y'all hear, like right now, motorcycle riding down the street, I do live in the hood, and we have, summertime is fine. Happy. Sure. Our guest for the evening, Megan Rickman Blackwood. Make some noise. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. But before we get into it, let me just tell you a little bit about Megan. Megan started her career in 2007, stepping onto the stage at Slam Richmond, winning the Slam and cementing a love that would continue. Is Kaniki here? Oh, hold on. Right before I get into it, Kaniki, let me finish the bio and then you can talk about your night. Give me 1 second. All right. Winning the and cementing their love that will continue to blossom and evolve over the next 14 years. Megan has performed on multiple stages, taking home the honor of 6th ranked woman poet in the world, y'all, in 2010. Megan has stepped back from performing, but continues to write as she completes her undergraduate degree in political science, combining her love of words and government. Megan has penned it down. She is here with us. We are super honored to have them. They are a legend. When I heard that they were getting on the mic at my event, I'm semi new to the spoken word community here, so I'm like, I don't know what's going on. They're like, you don't know about Megan? I was like, oh my goodness, I must have been living in a cave or something. They're like, oh, you're gonna learn today. We're not even gonna tell you. And as soon as they opened their mouth on the stage, I was like, okay, this is why I was shamed. I was publicly shamed in front of everybody for not knowing this person. So we're going to now bring Megan on. So Megan, this is how the show works. We open it up. Welcome, first of all, to the show. Thank you so much for coming to my night. Because after you did your poem, I'm like, I would love to chop it up with this person and have some conversation. But yeah, before we get into our interview and all the deeper questions and stuff like that, I do like our poets that I interviewed to open up with a poem. Particularly a poem that has a deep meaning to you, something that comes from a place that you think that has provided you healing in the past, or maybe a journey that you're still working towards, but not limited to. But definitely want to open it up with the poem.
Well, since we're talking about like therapy and art being our piece of therapy tonight, I will do this poem, which we affectionately refer to as Crazy Lady. Yeah, this is the one I think that spills the most of my soul. All right. And I'm really tired, so if I cry, like, just let it happen. Okay.
Listen, we've had this is the space for that, so you get it.
There was therapy right there in the name. Okay. The day the levees broke, I flooded the bathroom with an ocean of all of my too much. I prayed sink, held my breath, and did my best to forget how to swim. He found me blue, drug me back to reassured, wrapped me in I don't understand, but I love you anyway. Wiped my cheeks so the children wouldn't see their mother was such a damp woman, then parked me in the passenger seat. The hospital emergency room smelled like a sanitized slate. The waiting room chair transformed into this blizzard of tissues. They gave me my own box, each one a snowflake twisted and ripped between my anxious thumb and forefinger. I could hear all of their eyes whispering, what kind of pain could shake the walls of a woman hard enough for her to crack? They called my name quickly, rushed me past IVs and open wounds to a room with no windows and one chair with restraint polite enough to pretend to be cushioned. When the doctor asked me what was wrong, I unhinged my jaw and 666 spiders slithered out my secrets, scrawled across each of their backs. I stammered and choked until I could no longer feel their webs in my throat. When it was over, I felt empty and ashamed. I had known them all by name. The next few days were a bedroom and a blur, my lover tiptoeing on the palms of his feet, so aware of my eggshell stability. The children transformed into church mice. I could hear them scamper faintly, ask if mommy felt better today. I laid in my sweat and matted filth until it seeped under the door. He bathed me in silence, stopped asking what was wrong. I strained to hear hushed conversations. My mother, too proud to call it a breakdown, whispered episode, like we could wrap this shit up in 30 minutes. And the soundtrack, I was shuffled back and forth to appointments. So many pills, so many names, Prozac, Ativan, Depakote, Xanax. My entire life shrunk into the size of a prescription bottle that I hurried into my purse before anyone could see. They labeled me postpartum, bipolar, obvious signs of depression, but a diagnosis didn't make shit better. I couldn't write for weeks, wouldn't speak for hours. My words numb kindling. I was hoarding for what was sure to be the coldest winter that I have seen in a while. I don't know when this will be over. I hold my children closer. I pray to a God I do not understand, that they will never understand this, and I spend every day a tattered lighthouse battered against the waves, and I pray that tomorrow I do not crumble into the sea. Word, that's that poem. Oh, I'm here. Well. It's always weird.
Hey, I'm here. Yo, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
All right, bet. Cool. Wow. Yo, everybody show some love right now. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube Live, even if you're here and to keep the mic backstage, go ahead and show some love right now for Megan, because that was powerful. That was so powerful. What so I have to be honest, I missed like the first 30 seconds of the poem because my internet was hating and kicked me out, and then I came back and heard the rest of it. But just walk me through that poem. What made you pick that poem? And let's talk about it a little bit. What's the meaning behind it? What made you choose that for tonight?
Well, when I think about writing as therapy, so after I had my second son, I went through like a really bad bout of postpartum depression. And then I also developed an autoimmune disorder while I was pregnant with him. So the time after that was really, really hard. And like the way I explain it is like, I'm very like, I'm tough, I'm strong. Like that's how, I was raised to be. That's the type of woman that I am. And so the way I think about it is like, I was Atlas with the world on my back, and I was carrying it, but it was so heavy that it was slowly pushing me into the ground. And I didn't realize until my mouth was full of dirt. And then at that point, like, it was, hey, let's take her to the emergency room because she's batshit crazy. So I wrote that piece first off and then I wanted to do that piece because I think it's really important that we destigmatize mental health. Like, I think had I not felt like, if I'd understood how strong it was to ask for help instead of thinking that it was weak, I would have got help a lot sooner. And so it took me like breaking wide open to really be able to start healing. And it took me a really long time to write that piece. One of the lines in it is like, you know, I couldn't write for weeks. And that was very real. Like up until that point, I was writing like a couple of pieces a week. Like I was just constantly churning out material, and I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know how to say anything. And that was probably the first poem I wrote after that period of time. And it just broke me wide open again, but in like a healing way.
Yes.
And now when I do spit that poem, a lot of women who have gone through postpartum, even men that have gone through like, you know, shit, non-binary people, we all go through a lot of stuff. And I think that we're just now starting to like really destigmatize postpartum depression. And I'm thankful to have a opportunity to let people know they're not alone in that.
Wow. I fucked with that so hard. And it's like, you know, it reminds me of like just after my father passed, just having to be okay and having to like push and push and push and just, you know, even people even asking, wow, you're so strong. Wow, you're so, you know, you seem to be doing really, really well. And honestly, just legit being on autopilot mode, not knowing that all this shit is boiling up inside. And then one of these days, it just explodes. And I remember for me, it was the New Year's Eve, the first New Year's without him. And I just remember I got plaster drunk. That's never a good combination. But I was like super drunk. Had a little party with some of my friends and just came home, and like just this overwhelming feeling of emotions just like exploded out of me. Up to that point, like I was arguing with my girlfriend at the time. I was just like, it was everybody else's fault but mine. And it just got to that point where finally like it just came out. And it's like, I feel like we were both like just lucky that we were able to get to a point where it came out and we were able to eventually like recoup and get back to like, okay, this happened and this is why it happened, because this is just so much that we try to take on. Anyway, this interview is not about Charity Blackwell. Let's get into it. All right.
But that's a solid point, Charity. Like, I think if anybody takes anything away from this at all, like the thing I would want them to take away is like, check on your strong friend.
Yes.
Like the friend you call when your life's like falling apart, the person that always seems to have their shit together, like check in on them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't, and they just assume you're okay because like you're okay for everybody else and like you handle shit. And I think that's like, those are the people that I think need someone to literally sit them down and be like, hey, are you okay? Right. And push if you love them and they love you and you know they'll be comfortable with it. Like push and make sure they're all right.
Yeah, that's so true. Like dig. It may make them uncomfortable, but it's like that's what it takes though, because we're gonna always try to be the strong one and always gonna say, oh yeah, we're good. But at the end of the day, nah, homies are struggling. Homies are struggling hard too. And type of people, you know, I'm a Scorpio. We'll damn near self-destruct. We had to, like, you know, I'm the type of person though, like, you know, it will get to like, I would definitely keep brushing it off to my detriment, you know, and put others over me. So yeah, definitely huge point there. Now, I hope people do take that away. Like check on your strong friends, young.
For sure.
All right, this is a great opening to this interview, y'all. Hope y'all tuning in. We here with the one and only Megan Rickman Blackwood. Y'all missed the first part. Y'all missed a dope-ass poem to open up this interview. So we're going to start getting into it. So, of course, you already know we got to start out with the cliche. Actually, Megan, let me take a quick pause. Time out real quick. Kaniki, please go ahead and come on and do your thing real quick. Because, I'm definitely saw you pop in here. I can't see the backstage, but whoever's doing your thing, let's get Kaniki on. Looks like they're up here. Kaniki is another one of our hosts. We want to make sure that they were given the opportunity to talk about their night. They had a little bit of struggles getting in here, but they're here now. So Kaniki, go ahead. Let's hear about what you got going on for your night.
The devil powers that be knows that I love Megan and didn't want to let me in on the stream. But thank you very much, Charity, for bringing it back on. Hey, Megan, I love you. Hey, boo.
Love you. I can't wait to see you soon.
Yes, can't wait to see you soon. I've known you for a long, long time. And good. So I'm supposed to be saying that I'm Kaniki Jakarta, and my night is called Poets and Platforms, where I interview poets who have platforms for the arts. I'm very excited to have Megan on here. I don't know what happened before I came on here. I called some of Megan's poem or something, so I don't know what happened. I hate when I don't know what happened. I hate that. I hate that. Like, what happened before me? You know, it's like coming into a blind slam, which I'm going to do, but that's another thing. Yeah. So anyway, I got to give my mama the link. So I got to log off before my mom's like, I can't see Megan. So I got to tell my mama.
Oh, Mama said hi.
I got to send it to my mama. So
that's the real rider.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Charity. Digging the.
Thank you for coming through. We gonna keep it moving and grooving. Shout out to Kaniki.
Yes.
All right. Cool. We back. Everybody that got the night in right? Thumbs up? Great. Let's get it. All right. So, of course, Megan, we got to start off with the cliche questions, especially for folks like me who've lived under a rock for like, you know, the past 20, 15, 10 years. Let's talk about you. What got you involved in writing? What inspired it? When did it start? All those questions.
So I started writing when I was a little kid. I have like books and books of journals starting from about like 8 years old. I just wrote all the time. I always wanted to write what I was feeling, and then it helped to like, I mean, we talk about using it as therapy, but it did like help me process my feelings and stuff I couldn't say out loud. And then I had started writing back when MySpace was a thing. I was just like, I saw people were using like the notes function to put up poems and stuff. And I was like, I write poems. And so I put some up there. And this guy, Tom Prunier, who is like an OG in Richmond, like started Slam Richmond in like 2005. He saw somebody linked him to my poem on like somebody that I knew him. It was like, yeah, you know, like how the MySpace world worked. It was like a friend of a friend. And he was like, hey, we have an open mic. You should come out. And I came out and I had this poem called Fuck George Bush. And motherfuckers loved it. And I was like going crazy because it's the first time I'd ever like spit on stage other than in like my high school talent show. So I was like, hey, like, so you guys have this thing after, I didn't even know what it was. And I was like, what's this slam thing? Can I do that too? And I was like all young and a baby poet. And they were like, well, normally we don't do that since you did the open mic, but come on. And I won. And then I haven't stopped.
That's lit. So that was like your first time was like your catapult into the art space. Like it wasn't like how I hear some artists have asked that question to, well, you know, I started here and they really liked me. So then I went back here. Like you went like straight in and then like went into it. Full blown.
Yeah, I won the first slam and they used to give out dog tags. So like it's like January 21st, 2007 is the first time that I stood on stage as an adult. And I know that because I have a dog tag that says like Slam Champion, Slam Richmond that day. And yeah, dude, I was just stuck. So like I'm an athlete. So between the love of writing and then the fact that I could do like a competition with it, it was a wrap.
So was the poetry scene, and I guess specifically the slam scene in Richmond, when you first began, was it rich? Was it a time to be in the slam scene? Because I know that scenes and cities, they kind of fluctuate when it comes to slam. 1 minute it's like really popular, hot, then they go through like these slumps. So how was it when you were first introduced to it?
I actually came in at probably the perfect time. So one of the first features I saw was Talam AC. 13 was in shortly after that. They were bringing down like Rachel McKibbins and Marty and like so that whole generation, Shaka, oh my God, Shaka, who's like across the pond now. If you don't know Shaka, I think it's Campbell is like his official name on the internet now, but dude used to just like blow my mind on the regular. So this was like at the end of HBO Deaf Poets. Okay. And we had somebody that came to our scene from New York. And so they knew people from New York. And like, I got thrown in the deep end. And it was like all just like people I'd seen on TV, people that like were just heavy writers. And then what was great about Slam Richmond was that like the show was at like 7 or 8, right? But you could show up at 5 and take a free workshop with whoever was featuring. So like you couldn't keep me out of Slam Richmond. I was in there every Saturday, and like my oldest son grew up running around there. Like we would be there. There was a pizza place around the corner, and we would come, and I would do the workshop. I would stay. We get a little pizza, come back for the show. Like it really was a really like good time to come up in the area. If it tells you anything, Roscoe Burnhams and I started like hand in hand. We were both babies at the time, and we came in right around the same time. So Richmond definitely like bred some good energy around that time. And even like poets from other places, other poets that are like gone now that will probably never touch stage again, but Be Young, Rudy Francisco used to come through, and him and I would jump in the truck and tour North Carolina and then go up to DC. So it was just a really vibrant time. That early like 2010 through 2015 was just like a really vibrant time to be a part of Slam.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. What is it that you think made that time so vibrant? Do you think it was because it was on the cusp of the Deaf Poetry Slam era? Was it just a hunger that you feel like people had more around that time? I'm just really curious. We'll get into other questions in a second. But
I think obviously like the popularization of poetry through HBO was really big, and then the B&V competition was really big for getting youth involved in it. I think it might have just been the time. Like nowadays there is a lot of desperation. Like it's reflected in the work. You still see some joy, but like shit's rough. And then like I think I came along at the end of the like hedonism version of poetry, where everybody was just like straight up happy and like doing drugs and drinking and like having a good time. And it was just like, it was that vibe of the late, that beginning like decade of the 2000s, man. Like it was excess and people were happy and wanted to go out to events and wanted to go see things. Now, I mean, we have Versus, which still runs and has run, but is mostly a music open mic now. And then Roscoe and I'll throw stuff every once in a while. Skoda shows every once in a while too. But like it's hard pressed to come across a poetry event now. And when you do, the vibe is a lot different. It is the therapy session. Like everybody's coming in to just get the shit off their chest. Whereas I feel like during that era, like you could take a date to you still can, but back then, like you could take a date to the poetry slam and you're gonna have a good time. And like 8 of the 10 poets gonna warm up your date for you before you get her home. Like it was like a whole different vibe, man. People were just like, they were hungry for like art and creating. And I think the world's a little sadder these days, and it doesn't negate the need for the space, but it creates a different space that's needed.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. I like how you put that. I haven't heard it put that way though, so I appreciate that answer. Damn. Okay. Cool. Get a little history lesson here too as I'm learning from you. So this is dope. So let's keep it moving. How much of your poetry do you create for yourself? And how much how much if this applies, how much do you create for others? I like asking this question because I do find the answers to be interesting. Some folks are like, you know, I don't care about people. I create for myself. And if people fuck with it, great. Awesome answer. I hear folks like, yeah, I create for other people because I want to make other people, you know, pay me for some money. I'm trying to grab that bag. I've had people straight up say that. So I like all the different answers. I'm interested to know, what is your purpose for creating, and what inspires you to create, and is it for self or for others, or neither? Take it away, Megan.
I think it's for both, right? Like, I write to magnify the good that's like already there, right? So that's like the, I don't know, man, I'm real weird, and like, back, regardless of what your like religious or scientific beliefs are, we can all agree that there was like this big cloud of stuff, and then it all became us, right? But when we were that big cloud of stuff, like, we were all there, we were together. And so like, if I'm writing for me, I'm writing for you too. And like, I try to identify that, and it's weird because a lot of my poems are really sad, right? But like, there's a goodness in feeling the absolute desperation of heartbreak. There's good in that, because then you can identify what real love is, and what good love is, and what good emotions are. You have the juxtaposition, the light and the dark. Like, one can't exist without the other. So a lot of times I'll write and I think it's for me, but it's like, I'll finish and it's not for me. It wasn't something for me. One of my like poems that everybody loves, I actually did it at a slam. It's probably like the most famous poem that I have, is the Toll the Bowl to the Bulimic. And I've never suffered with bulimia. And like, I had a friend that was going through something of that nature, and I wrote the poem with her in mind. And then I sat on it for like 2 years. And then I actually ran into Tara Hardy, who's a poet from ages ago. She was in the 90s and early 2000s, another one of those like big names. If you get a chance, look her up. She's stupid good. But I ran into her, and she had publicly, you know, had a really big struggle with bulimia. And I asked her, I was like, is it okay that I do this poem? And it's an experience that I particularly haven't had. And she gave me that theory of like, you're always writing for yourself, but you're always writing for someone else too. And so like, she gave me permission to let that poem live. And so I always start in what I'm feeling, what I'm going through, because I think if you don't tap into that real like visceral emotional feeling, you're gonna come up short. You know, you may capture around the edges, but like, you gotta really let yourself dive into it and feel it to get there. So it's always a little bit for me because I'm processing stuff, but I hope that because I'm writing to human condition, that it's for all of us, if that makes sense.
Nah, that's dope. I really like that answer. I like that you're writing for both, because essentially that's been a topic. That's been a topic that I've heard a lot about, where folks are like, is it real authentic if the person who is writing has not had that direct experience? And is that their space, and this, that, and the other? And it's like, I think there's like a balance for it, when it comes to that. And then and I think also, like, are you trying to speak for people, or are you just talking from a certain perspective, which I think is also something to keep in mind when people write from different experiences that they may have not had direct relationships to. So I really appreciate that answer a lot. I've never heard that answer put that way. So it's
and I think like that is a super valid conversation, right? Because you never want to be like stealing someone's story and like trying to like pimp it as yours, right? But I think like when we're like tangentially attached to stories. Like I had a friend that was going through an eating disorder, and like the poem, the toilet bowl is the like abusive boyfriend. And like that was how I felt. Like I felt like she was in this abusive relationship, and I didn't have somebody that I could go fight or key their car or like steal her away from it. And giving voice to that demon, even though it wasn't something with a voice. I hope it helped. I mean, she's healed since then, and you know, seems to be doing good and stayed in recovery from it. So, but I think like it's okay to name the demons as long as we're not like standing in the space and taking up the space of someone who wants to tell that story.
Right. For sure. It's so true. Yeah. All right, Megan, let's keep it moving. Let's keep these questions coming. I'm loving this. All right, so so we talked a little bit about creating for yourself, creating for others, and you know, share that you feel it comes hand in hand, like with both. But for you personally, how has poetry, if it has, allowed you to navigate your own identities?
Oh, so much. It allows me to be the person I am sometimes scared to be in real life. My husband, when we met, he knew I was a poet, but I didn't take him to a poetry event for about 9 months into our relationship. Because the Megan that's on stage is a lot more badass than the Megan that lives in my house. Right? So it allows me, it's like putting on the cape, right? Like you put on the superhero outfit and you go and you're this badass person that feels all these things and can concisely like name your feelings, and like it allows you to really show the wildest and the strongest and the bravest parts of yourself. And that has been everything, you know, being able, even like there's times like I have a poem that talks about being like a mom and a wife and stuff, and like people might hear it and be like, oh my God, she's trapped in a loveless marriage. And it's not that at all, but there is a piece of every married woman that's like, I don't want to do these dishes, screw that dirty diaper, make your own food, like, and I get to express that identity without, like, it's a safe space, it's a safe place to be in, and to really like, you know, like stretch it's the superhero thing. Like it's putting on you put on the superhero uniform, but when I take it off, like I just work at a newspaper. Like, so like I really enjoy that part of it, is being able to like take off. And I think a big part of it is putting down who you are. Like you're putting down Clark Kent too. And there's a lot of freedom in stepping away from that identity, because you're not just stepping away from the identity. Like when I step on stage, there are not 2 children at home waiting for me. When I step on stage, there is not a research paper due when I get back at home. I am Megan the poet. And for that 3 minutes and 10 seconds, I exist in a different plane, and it's magic.
That is so sick. That is so right, though. And you know, the interesting thing is, like, I think there's a flip side to that as well, because when you step on stage and who you are on stage, is I run into this issue. Like people, like girls fall for the stage charity, right? Like the outgoing, the smile, all that extra stuff. They don't know, like, I am in real life complete absolute opposite. That's still you, right?
Yeah,
your identity, but that identity shows up in certain spaces, right? Like that's not turned on 24/7 all day, every day. And sometimes people can get this illusion of who you are from that experience that they get from you on stage, which is still a very specific experience. But then when you go off stage and then they see that you're like not that, then it's like, wait, but you were doing, but yeah, that's still me. But like that's charity on stage. I feel like it's so interesting that it's like it can be super liberating, but also like confusing for some folks if they but they're not able to like separate the two. Something I've ran into, which is super interesting. But that's a great way to put it, like, because that feeling when you get on stage, you somebody else, yo. You turn into somebody else.
You really are. And I think like people don't, like, one of the things that I've ran into, just because you brought it up, the people that see you on stage and they're like, I want to be with you.
Right.
Like, they don't understand that to get there to that point where you have this kick-ass poem, like, you got to feel all those feels. So like, I may have an amazing 3-minute and 10-second poem that took me 3 weeks of like abject depression, laying in bed, feeling all of the feelings so that I could think about it and figure out what I wanted to say. But I needed to do that to get there. And that's not sexy. Nobody wants to snap for that.
Nothing sexy about it. Yo.
Nobody's throwing 10s when I'm like, putting my pajamas back on, going back to bed at noon. Like,
you eat my ice cream.
Nobody applauds that. They should. It's part of the process, but.
Word. No, it is though. But it's like, but it's kind of like a cliche of like how, or metaphor of how the world looks at just the ugliness and process of healing, right? People want to be there when it's like you're on stage and you're able to get to that point. So I can talk about this now. Matter of fact, not only can I talk about it, I can put it into a poem and share it with y'all. But getting to there, that's the part where it's like, who's really going to show up and hold me down during that part? And that's where, you know, I find myself in really interesting spaces when people really fuck with that person on stage, but then like that person on stage, I'm like the most introverted homebody person you could think of. So it's like, that's so dope. That's so dope. All right, come on, let's keep it moving. I got more questions to get through. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Who are some artists that have inspired / moved you? Thinking, you know, you talked about a couple earlier when you're talking about the Richmond scene, but who really stood out to you coming onto the scene and really inspired you to hone in on your craft, and why?
So y'all gonna think I'm faking the funk because his wife is a part of the collective. 13 of Nazareth not only taught me to be a better writer, but he taught me a lot about life and how to be a better person. His work, first off, his pen game is just stupid. Like, it's just like, it's unnecessary. But anyway, regardless of that, like, he was one that really taught me the game. Lamar Hill, Talam, Sheba. When I first came in the game, you couldn't tell me shit about Queen Sheba. Now she running for office down in Atlanta, which, you know, I got to go support that campaign too. But same way I bought them CDs, I'm going to go support that campaign. I'm trying to think who else. Like, there was some, again, there's some writers that aren't really writers anymore that just, Brooke Young. He was this cat out of New York, way younger than me. He was in B&V when I was in like grown up PSI slams and stuff. But just loved him. He had my heart. And dude could write circles around anybody in the game. Like, and I think that's where, like, him, there was another dude, Carvin's Lassant, Correct. There was this, you know the babies, right? Like, there was this whole era of kids that came in and they were like, word, you got a hook, you got a flashy little choreographed piece. Let me come in with my pen game. Because until that time, there was the Northeast writers who were just the writers. Like, these fools would show up at the slam and read off their paper. Like, they were not there to be la 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 la. Like, they were there to read you their poem, and their pen games were sick. And then you had the South, people like Slam Charlotte, Black on Black Rhyme, like, and their writing was sick, but like they were coming with this like real choreographed performing pieces, and the thing that caught you was like the hooks, the songs, the like, oh my God, CP Mays. How did I not say CP Mays. If you have not heard any CP Mays, I need you to write it on a sticky note right now.
Sorry, hold on 1 second.
Mays.
CP.
I'm dead. Like, I'll stop there. CP Mays. Brother is stupid good. But then this generation of kids came along and they married the two. And I realized that there was about to be a whole crop of kids coming out of BNV that were gonna like give us the business if we ain't step our pen game up.
Right.
And so I got to writing with them. Like Rudy was another one in that collective at that time. I mean, we weren't like an official collective, but like I had an Explorer at the time and we would hop in that bitch and be out, like driving to Florida, driving to North Carolina, like wherever there was a show, we were like, let's go. That collective, like that group of people, just like being in them, staying at Kaniki and 13's house, like them letting me crash there and like steal their books. I still have a book of 13's that I have to return to him. That's at my house. It's been in my house for like a decade. But yeah, like the generation before me gave me what I needed to be ready, and the generation after me pushed me to not just rest on my laurels.
Come on.
Yeah. Pages is another one, yo. Pages, holy.
Pages, fucking beast, yo.
Yeah, that whole generation of BNV kids, like that Pages is a part of. I know you're familiar with him, right? So like, that era. Like, that's the era you can look to. Those kids, like, which they're not kids anymore. They're all adults with children and careers, and they're amazing, wonderful humans. But they will forever be the babies that came in and just smashed.
It's interesting because, like, when you're talking about when you got introduced to the poetry scene, right, and the different people that were a part of that era when you came in and had your first open mic. That was my era when I came in. When I came into DC and I moved up here because I grew up in South Carolina. We had open mic, slam, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
No. It wasn't until I came up here to DC and I actually saw, wow, people perform their poetry. What I saw on Deaf Poetry Jam, like this is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I went to Bus Boys of Poets, and that's where I saw Pages. I think it was Joseph LMS Green.
Oh my God, LMS. We were on a team together back in the 2000s. He's from Richmond. He's from DC now, but he's from Richmond. Don't let him fool y'all.
Okay, he tried to slide off like he DC, you know what I'm saying? But
that's our RVA fam right there. Don't let him trick y'all.
Wow. Amin Drew Law, Elizabeth.
Oh my God.
Like that was my introduction to slam poetry. So it's kind of like being introduced when fucking Michael Jordan's in his prime type film.
Right.
I understand. That's why I was asking that question for you, because I was wondering, because that had a huge impact on me. Because I do think how you come into an art form and what's happening in that scene at that time has a big influence on how you approach it, right? And those folks really made me get so excited about it. Not only that I like poetry, but that made me excited. That made me like, wow, this is dope as fuck. I want to be like them. They make me want to step my ship. They make me want to write. They're inspiring different people. Like I remember walking out there like with 5 different poems in my head, because that's how much they were just on topic and off topic and just doing shit. So, yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep it moving. We got some more to go through. And I know, so Megan, I didn't even talk to you about this. We just jumped into shit, had Nikki pop her head in here and just been going. So this is how it works. We're going to keep going through. I'll say I have about 5 more questions for you. After that, I open up the floor to the audience or people that are live, Facebook, YouTube. What's up, y'all? Y'all drop your questions in and then you answer them. We'll close if you have one more poem with the poem. Bet. So after people ask their questions, we'll close with a poem and then we'll drop all your information and then peace on out. Just want to make sure everyone you knew and everyone who's watching knows what's going down right now.
Side note, Charity, sometime we're going to do this without the live stream and stuff, but just cross table from one another.
Let's do it. Yo, I'm here for it. Like I want to like pick your brain. The questions that I have here are like, now that I'm talking to you, like I have like 1,000 more, but I'm trying to so we're going to have to definitely like chop it up outside of this. So that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right. So cool. That. Can you share a time where you feel like poetry /art, if it has saved you?
Oh shit. Yeah. So that the poem that I wrote. So the one that I spit for you guys at the beginning. So during that time when I was like super jacked up, I couldn't write, but I kept my laptop nearby, and this cat out of Charlotte, Mike Sims, used to make bootleg poetry CDs before Spotify, before anything, back when, like, and he worked for like some bank or something, so he was like the only one of us that had money. He had that CD thing where you could burn a CD to a CD. I'm probably gonna get him in trouble, but it's 10 years later. Statute of limitations has got to be up, and I think he lives in another country now, so whatever. Anyway, bro used to like burn us CDs, right? And I had CDs that had like Shane Koizikistan, Anis Mojgani, like stuff we didn't have here and that we didn't see here on a regular basis. And I'd uploaded all of it to this computer, and I just kept the computer in bed with me, and I just let it play. Like I sometimes I probably wasn't even listening, but I was listening.
Wow.
And it was and remains to be one of the biggest reasons I continue to write, is the understanding in a like objectively true way that you're not alone. Like, I feel terrible. This is the worst I've ever felt. And it's very easy to say, I'm alone. No one's ever felt like this. But if somebody just like ripped a poem that explains exactly how you feel in that moment, like, it was as comforting as having someone in bed holding me. Like, just having the poems just playing and on repeat. Like, it was like what brought me through. And that was before I met my husband, my partner now. And I was like at a really rough time. And I was with my youngest son's father, and God bless him, he's a good dude, but like, he just didn't know what to do with me. I was too much. Like, he didn't know how to comfort me in that moment and how to like bring me out of it. And I would just lay in bed and just listen. And like, shit, Rachel McKibbins, Rashid Copeland, like, there was so many poems that I had collected over the years that even though I was absent from the poetry community and had been for almost a year and a half, because that was right when I came back. I moved to Denver to slam the Slam Nuba, and I came back and I told everybody I was going to write like the great American poetry novel. And really, I just went and got super depressed for a year and a half. But I felt my family there with me. So poetry may not have saved my life in the form that like I wrote a poem that saved my life, but poets have saved my life on more than one occasion.
Wow.
Even speaking to that situation that kind of put me in that place, I called Wendy Jones, another poet out of the Carolinas, North Carolina. I called her. I had both my kids, and I was leaving my ex, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. And she drove 2 states away to pick us all up, throw us in the car, and take me back to my mama's house. Like, poetry may not have saved my life, but poets have saved my life on more occasions than I can count, figuratively and quite literally.
That's a t-shirt. That's a hashtag. Poetry
right?
saved my life with poets. That's so real though, yo. That's so real. And damn, it takes me back. That's some real ass shit. Cause like now, like when you're on different stages and stuff, like the poetry looks different, feels different. But the times where poetry really hit home, the times where like I really connected with poets, is like it wasn't a packed out audience. It was like some random ass motherfucker that just gets up there and do some shit. And I'm like, and they just catch me off guard. I'm like, what the hell? Where did this poem, like out of all the places all the places any of us could have been tonight, I heard this message. And the poetry, yes, it's important, but it's the poet, the person that's there, that's willing to share that. That's what's really the key to it, you know? So Yeah, I fucks with that. Damn, Megan. We getting deep, y'all. Art therapy up in this joint. All right, cool. I have some really good questions. So I want to get through these. All right. So you did talk about this a little bit earlier. When talking about people who come up to you after your performances and speaking on that. So I just kind of want to dig a little bit deeper in that and talk about people who come up to you and tell you that your artwork has touched them. Like, I know you talked about, let's dig into a couple more of those instances possibly. And how did that make you feel in those moments when people share that with you?
It makes me feel like I did it right. That in that moment I was, so I talked about how we all dust, right? Like the messages come from the dust. And in that moment I was honored by, like, for me, God, like to be like, hey, this is a thing I need you to do. Yeah. And I didn't fuck it up. Right. Because I think a lot of times we get in our own way, or we say like, well, I really feel like I should spit this. Have you ever been somewhere and you're at like especially slams, right? You be at a slam and you're like there's the poem that that's gonna get you a 29 to a 30. And then there's the weird ass poem that you've never slammed before, but for some reason it is eaten at the back of your heart, like telling you spit me. And there's been times that I didn't listen to that, but every time that I have, and 9 times out of 10, either went over time so far that I knocked myself out of the slam, or scored so terrible that I didn't matter. Those are always the moments in which someone finds me afterwards and says, like I have had one young lady come up and say, like, she was coming to the poetry slam and then like she had plans to end her life. And I actually did Crazy Lady. And it was that feeling like, no matter how far down in the trenches you are, if somebody's beside you, like, you might be able to make it out. Or at the very least, you got company while you're dying. Like, one way or another, you're not alone. And I think that's the most important thing. So I encourage everybody, like, slam, open mic, whatever it is, if you come with a set and you say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, and something's tickling you, like at the back of your brain or your heart, like, spit that poem, because there's somebody in that audience that like needs to hear what you're about to say, and you may save their life,
Yes. And that's that tingling poetry goddess's spirits in you right there saying, yo, right? That shit, yo. That's so true though. Damn. Okay. All right, so let's do this one. When you write and you feel like you're in your most effective environment to write, and we can talk, and this can be mentally and physically, right? What does that look like? What is that? Where do you have to be here, and where can you be physically to make you feel like, all right, I'm in my bag right now. I'm able to like go.
So all right, so this is like my Hova quality. I don't write a poem down physically until it's done in my head. And it is not a fancy special skill. It is a mom skill, because I spend so much time being a mother, being a wife, being a student. The time that I write is in my car alone, driving from place to place, and I can't write. So I'll get an idea and I just work it over and over and over and over and over and over in my head until I have it, and then I'll write it down. And there is some editing that goes into it then, like I'll let other people look at it but by that point it's usually pretty cemented inside of my head, because I like learn it while I'm writing it. But it was just like, it was necessity is the mother of invention. And it wasn't like, I'm going to be cool and not write my poems down. Like, it was like, oh shit, I literally can't write this down. So I'm just going to keep saying it over and over in my head until I memorize it. And now that's kind of my process. So I'll let something eat at me for months. And then I may have a stanza for 6 months. And then I'll wake up one day and I'll be like, oh shit, this is the rest of this poem. And then it's just there. So, yeah, that's usually my process. It's a lot harder as a mother, and especially this last year with the kids being home. Like, I know I joked about it earlier, but I do need that time. I need the time to get into the emotion, to feel the emotion of what I'm trying to write about, to actually do the writing, the constructing of the poem. And then I need a little bit of time on the back end to heal from whatever I just opened up to be able to write that. And like, we ain't had that kind of time over COVID. I haven't had that kind of alone. We've had a lot of time. I haven't had that kind of alone time over COVID. So, yeah, I'll get in my car and drive. Sometimes I drive like, well, gas prices the way they are now, but like I'll drive like an hour or two in the wrong direction. I'm trying to write a poem now. And like a couple of weeks ago, I was coming home and I just stayed on 64 and I drove up to the mountains and I got out at the Blue Ridge Mountains and sat and like talked to God for an hour and tried to figure the poem out. And then I had to drive all the way home.
No, that's lit though. Like, and I'm wondering, so when you're saying that driving seems to be the place where you're able to think through these poems and stuff, is that because of the quietness from driving? Is it because of just the scenery? What is it about driving that brings that level of creativity for you to really start going in your head and processing these poems?
Okay, so I'm definitely like an ADD, ADHD kid. And I think that the like solid focus of there's this one thing that I'm doing. I am driving and I have to watch the road and I have to watch the cars around me. But it's like this one thing that I'm doing. Like my brain can be doing that and click on that. But you know, I mean, the same thing as everybody. Like you're driving, you're watching the driving, but like your brain can kind of think about other things.
Yeah.
But I think because there is only one other thing that I'm thinking about at that moment, which is driving. I often find these nice long stretches, especially like my favorite time to write is driving home from DC from a poetry event. Like I've got 2 hours home. It's late. I can put my cruise control on. And like, I'm literally writing a poem the whole way home in my head. Like but I'm not going to have the time to do it. Like that is the 2 hours that I'm going to have to write all week. And so I just run it until it makes sense, until it doesn't sound bad.
Right. That's awesome though. And so you go through so is it like you go through the entire poem in your head, or is it like bits and pieces and clauses that you clump together and then when you write it down, then it like comes out? Or is it like, no, I know what the fuck I'm about to say when I go home?
Yeah, when I go home to write it down. So what it'll start is it's like I'll start like, so right now the one that I'm working on is talking about, so the line, it usually always starts with a line. And the poem that I'm working on right now is it's for the people from January 6th. And the line that hit me was, silly boy, didn't you think your privilege came with a price tag? And so like that line hit me. And so I'm trying to figure out the rest of the poem. So I'll write it, like I'm writing it stanza by stanza. So like,
okay,
like it may take me 6 weeks to figure out the first one.
Right.
But I know what my first line is, and I'm going to keep throwing other stuff in there when I have a chance until it sounds right. And then once it does, I just say it over and over again in my head until it sounds right. And then I've memorized my first stanza, and then I start writing my second one. And so like, it just builds on itself. And sometimes it's as quick as a day and like it's one ride home and it's done. Sometimes it'll live in me for months at a time and it'll find its way out when it's ready.
Interesting. That is so dope. Have you ever taught workshops, poetry workshops?
Yeah, back when I toured, I would always like offer a workshop at the beginning. I have some workshops that I've put together. And I love doing like, if I had time, I would still do like prompt writing and like structured poetry and thematic poetry and like I want nothing more than to have the time to sit down and write a Pantone. I wish I had that kind of like maybe when I'm 50 and the kids are out of the house and like I can take a long weekend, but I haven't in a while, and like, you know, I miss it so much. But what I will still do is I'll still talk to a lot. Like I'll have poets call me and I'll be like they'll be like, let me spit you my poem. And they spit me their poem. And then I needle at them until they tell me the truth they didn't say in the poem that they got really close to saying. And then I make them say that. So I feel like that's my contribution to poetry these days, is being like, you weren't telling the whole truth, were you?
Right. That's what's up. That's awesome. That's awesome. I asked that because I really I like how you broke down your process for writing, and I feel like a lot of folks struggle with process.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't come to them, sometimes they force it, or they just fully abandon the poem. So just like holding on to your process, I think there's something to like be said about that, you know, because I've been in your shoes. That there's poems I've started on that are just sitting in my Google Docs right now that I'm like, I will get to you though eventually, but it's like bits and pieces. And I've also interviewed folks like, it took me 10 years to write this poem, and it'll be so inspiring for people to hear, wow, it took so-and-so 10 years to write a poem that happened. Well, this is how that happened, you know? So the poem is there. It gets out eventually. So, but I really appreciate that answer.
Don't abandon your work, man. Like, come back for it. And I think one of the greatest things is like in your docs or whatever, like keep that. And if there's days where you're like, I do have 2 hours and I want to write, like, pull them. They're really great places to start. Like you're giving yourself a prompt. Like even if a whole different poem comes out of it, like I think we're afraid to like let something be 2 sentences. Maybe that 2 sentences you wrote is the poem, but there's another poem coming behind it that's like gonna be fire.
For real, because it's like when I have, sorry bus boys, but I did a Langston Hughes event and I was reading and I had to do some poems from his thick ass book collection of books, and I took the book, but now that I've snitched on myself, I will eventually give it back to us, but I have it now. But like, if you go through Langston Hughes' book of poetry, like he has some poems that are like 5 pages long. Then he'll have some poems that are like literally 1 sentence, 2 sentences. So I could just see, if I were to like be a fly on his wall, him just being like, yep, that's it. Like, it's it, you know. Sometimes like it doesn't have to be that 3-minute poem because you're trying to stretch it out for a slam or something like that, whatever it may be. But also adding to that, just the process of growth. You know, as you grow, I'm a firm believer that your poetry grows. And so sometimes you might write something and you still need to experience something as you're writing it to then go back and complete that poem. You know what I'm saying? So like there is especially if you're a person that writes from experiences, right? And writes from your personal growth and your personal experiences, there you have to sometimes get it out in that moment and then let it sit. And as you're growing, your art will grow too. And then you'll be able to go back and kind of make it full circle. So that's just my little 1 cent I'll add to that.
That's your 2-sentence poem, and it's a banger.
Hey, I appreciate it. Yo, seriously though, that's how it be sometimes. So I think I'm gonna end with 2 questions, and I'm gonna open up the floor for folks. I think we got about 20 minutes left, so I'm definitely gonna give you time for these answers. So it's been an interesting time. Like the world's just starting to open back up. Folks are just now, you know, going back out possibly to their first event in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
People are like transitioning into what
no. Charity, you're freezing a
You
little
back?
bit.
Hold on.
There you go. Okay. Maybe.
Hold on. Hold on, folks. Give me a second.
Oh, Danielle, you're muted, baby.
That would be helpful. Unmute yourself. I was gonna say I'm gonna jump in long enough to say while she's working on that, if anybody has questions to add them to the chat in either Facebook or YouTube, we can get all the questions here, and that way we already prepped by the time she gets back on.
Look, and I'll take this moment. Oh, here she comes. Real quick. I don't have my own book, but since I have 2 seconds, everybody needs to buy this book. It's called On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, and it is 20 lessons for how to fight back against authoritarianism. So I was like, oh, it's frozen. Let me tell everybody buy this book.
Actually, what's crazy is at the end of it, I'm going to ask, I usually ask at the end of my segment, like, what people are reading, because we're curating a reading list. So I'm putting that on the curated reading list.
On Tyranny. It's like $5. It's super short, and like it is, I give it to everyone. Anytime that like somebody has a birthday, I get them an actual present, and then I buy them this book.
And look, somebody that already put the link in the chat. I'm gonna jump back out now. I'm gonna jump back out now.
All right.
Yeah, my internet is on some just disrespectful vibes tonight, and I apologize to you, Megan.
It froze you in a very beautiful position.
Oh, well, that's good to know. At least it didn't have me like super fucked up, but like, you know, it's still, I'm beefing with it. All right, so I was building up this question. All right, so I hope you've heard most of it, but we've been living in a time where people are now just starting to transition to what was possibly the old norm into a new. I mean, we're never really gonna, in my belief, go back to how things were. The world has been shifted, has shifted so much in the past year. Whether you're talking about just the economic environment, talking about health, we're talking about social justice issues, political issues. Like it's just we're in a different world right now that we feel like we're now coming out of. All that to say, as an artist. Absolutely, 100%. I can say comfortably that every artist at some way, some point, somehow has been impacted by this COVID experience and being quarantined, not getting on the stage, doing what they used to do before. How have you been able to stay motivated and continue to create, if you have been able to? Because I've definitely asked this question. The artists have been like, bitch, what? Create who? I ain't been motivated to even like do shit. Like, you know, anyway, so if you have been motivated, how have you been able to? If not, how, like, why is that? And do you think that COVID has, not COVID, let's go back. Social distancing as an artist, being, and then when I say that, not being able to do shows, not being able to connect with the community physically, has that impacted your ability to create? Whew, long-winded question.
Well, yes. So I definitely haven't been writing as much because of the situation that we're in. Just I don't have the luxury of downtime because the kids are at home and like we have to do all the things that they normally do. So that's definitely has impacted my ability to work. But I think especially over last summer, like we created in new ways. So I was part of a collective here in Richmond. We were the second to longest occupation across the country for BLM. We held down Marcus David Peters Circle for 58 days of solid occupation. And in that time, like we were able to create in like the weirdest ways. So coming up with new chants for our marches, and like shit to put on signs to hand out to people, stuff that was gonna go on the wall, like, because there was a lot of stuff going on walls legally and probably illegally. But what was funny is that while everyone else during that time was so like isolated, I was deeper in a community than I'd been like the entire rest of time of COVID. Like, we were together from sun up to sundown. Like, a lot of times we slept at the circle to make sure that like we held it down and the cops couldn't come in and like chain it off or whatever. And in that time, like, I really settled into understanding that like creating isn't always going to look like poems for me. And especially as a white person in that space, like, it wasn't my story to tell. It was my job to stand there and make sure you had space to tell your story, but it damn sure wasn't my space to be the one telling a story, right? Unless I was yelling at white people, which I did a lot. But I think it was more important for me in that time to create space than to create poems. And I am just as happy with the ability to do that.
I love that. I love that answer. Because I mean, when you think about it, and this can go down a whole different pathway of a conversation, but talking about being a creative, being an artist, what I'm really enjoying and embracing for myself, but even also watching other artists I've seen come out of COVID, is just really like exploring your creativity in different avenues, you know, because when we think about stuff that we're good at and we've like hit it like, oh, this is my niche, like I can write poetry and I know I'm good at it. But essentially you are a creative. You're an artist, and this gift that you have can take so many different branches off of the tree, you know what I'm saying? And so as long as you're rooted in your creativity, I think that's what matters. But, you know, I think it kind of stumps your reach, your power, your full growth, and your full potential when you just only hone in on that one direct avenue and don't see that, or not even just that one direct avenue, but just also, even if you were to just only stick to poetry and spoken word, the different audiences, the different causes, the different things that you could also be a part of, but also even it's taking this, like moving over into switching into a different direction. Like, okay, I'm a good poet. I could also be a good motivational speaker. I can also be a good, possibly do this film production or some shit like that. I don't know, but like, I think there's something to be said about just being a creator in general and understanding your gift and your power that can go beyond what you think is the limitations of it. Because I mean, some people are just like, yo, you a poet, that's it, fuck it. That ain't it. Like, you ain't going nowhere else. That's just that's your niche, and that's what you're really, really fucking good at. But I also think that there are so many different avenues for folks to take. And I think that what you stated was something that was really dope. And still super, super meaningful with the art that you, and it's still you pulling from yourself into a cause that is extremely important and meaningful. So,
I mean, I would say, like, even for y'all and what you've done, right? So the same way I said that, like, I write for myself, but I also write for everybody else. Like, I write, but everybody else writes too. Other people create, but we also are creating with them. So, like, y'all creating this space, like, there is probably 1,000 poems now that you may not have penned, but you helped create them, like, in holding this space. And I think that far too often that's overlooked. Like, that's your poem too. Like, you held this space open. You held the space for inspiration. You held the space for somebody to come in and talk. Like in the same way we're all being written for, we're all still both writing too.
You just flipped the fuck out of that. I was like, no, it's real though. That's real though, because you don't think about like how many poems you've inspired or how many poems you you've created space for people to have the space to create that,
Mm-hmm.
or think or manifest that thought, you know, which is still, it's very meaningful. Just to have the space to manifest thought is so important and critical for creative. So yeah.
See, look, you wrote a ton of poems this is quarantine, Charity.
I don't know. Yo, this is so mind-blowing.
You just ain't know.
I didn't even know. That's wild. So, all right, I'm about to, okay, 8:21. See, that's why I wanted to, okay, I'm going to end on this question. Okay. And I think the Mic fam knows this is my favorite question to ask. And then I'm going to open up the floor for anybody out there, YouTube, Facebook, in this space here, which just our hosts or whatever. But anybody that has any questions for Megan, please feel free to drop them now as we do this last question of the interview. So, this is a quote from one of my favorite documentaries. Have you seen the documentary? I think it's on Netflix. It's called Jim and Andy.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Jim Carrey is what we call, I always fucking forget this. He is a, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot. Hold up. He is, what is it? Method actor. Thank you.
I thought that was the word you wanted, but I didn't want to say it and make you forget it more.
You know, I'm so like, I'm gonna get it next time. And then next time happens, I never get it. I just need to put it in a fucking question. All right. So Jim Carrey is a method actor, right? So if anyone who knows that, they're a person that literally will embody and ingrain themselves into that experience of the actor that they're trying to get. So if you remember Heath Ledger, he was a method actor. Some people say that's what drove him over with playing the Joker. He got so consumed into the character, and that's what Jim Carrey, every single movie that you've seen Jim Carrey do. I mean, something from as funny and quirky as Ace Ventura to something as extremely deep and meaningful and super like deep side of Jim Carrey as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He's always been that actor that literally on set is that person, and then when he clocks out, he's still that same motherfucker. So this documentary talks about that specific movie where he played this guy who was a
Man on the Moon with Andy Kaufman. I haven't seen the documentary, but I heard he was a straight asshole, and people were like, "Is he an asshole or is he?"
He was such an asshole off because they're like, "It's over," and he's like, "It's not over." Right? He was just like going in, like cussing people out, knocking shit over. Fuck you, blah, blah, blah. But the real guy, Andy, was a fucking asshole. So it made sense. So anyway, if you haven't seen the documentary, y'all should check. It's one of my favorite ones. I'm a documentary enthusiast. I watch at least 2 documentaries a week. Like that's how at least. All right. Anyways, so this movie talks about that. And so you see him go on screen, do this acting. The director's like cut, and he's still like this dude, like going and doing his thing. And so this is him kind of speaking from that experience. So Jim Carrey says, at some point when you create yourself to make it, you're going to either have to let that creation go and take the chance on being loved or hated for who you really are, or you're going to have to kill who you really are and fall into your grave, grasping a character you never really were. So some artists will say, so that's end quote, some artists will say that their art is a true reflection of themselves. How important do you think it is for an artist to be transparent to their audience? And we'll end with that question.
Whoa. Damn.
Yeah.
That quote though.
Yo, when he said that in that documentary, I was like, God,
I mean, isn't that all of us though? Like,
yeah.
We pretend to be happy. We pretend to be like all these things we aren't. And a lot of us die without figuring out who we really are. But yeah, I do think it's important to be transparent. even when it's ugly, especially when it's ugly. I think it's important to give that. If you're not giving something of yourself to the audience, you can create very beautiful production. It's hard for me to call it art. I think art has to originate within the soul. It can't be something you did because you're like, oh, they like poems about asparagus this week, so I'm gonna write a poem about asparagus. Like, and I know that's like a completely abstract answer, but insert whatever's hot this year, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think that in order for it to be genuine, like, you got to find a way, even if it is a poem about asparagus, like, you got to make the asparagus your dad and like you're the butter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to find a way to make it.
Right. You still gotta like
it's got to be you somewhere in there. Like, maybe you're the asparagus and your family's the soil and it's time for you to grow up and go be on somebody's plate. Like, I don't know, but you've got to find, if you're not in the art, I can tell. If you are not in the poem, I can tell. And those are the hardest conversations to have with people when they're like, hey, like, listen to this. Do you like it? And I'm like, yeah, but who wrote it? Because I don't see any of you in there.
Because you ain't in it. Where you at?
Right? Like, I think if you have the nerve to call yourself an artist, you need to be just unapologetically naked with all the things you feel. And you can hide a lot for yourself, but not from your art. It doesn't even have to ever live with anybody, but it doesn't ever have to go anywhere other than your bedroom. But if you really want it to be art, it has to come from a piece of you that you're willing to expose.
Absolutely. And you're willing to understand that either you're going to be loved or hated for it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what I really love about this quote, because he's saying that, you know, at some point as artists, you're going to get to that crossroad at some point where it's like, all right, I'm going to do these crowd pleasing poems, or I'm just going to continue to like write my fucking truth. So you can either do that crowd pleasing poem and continue to do shit that makes people feel good. I would even call it possibly like performative writing, right? Yeah. And then, but you have to understand, if you go that route, and you have to accept it, because you see this a lot in like Hollywood. You see this a lot in like famous folks who they get into it and then they're like, whoa, this isn't really the real me. Like, this is, now they stuck with this whole persona of who they came into this world to be. But you've already, you made that choice. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So either you're going to accept and be loved for who you really are, but you're going to, or play this persona off and then fall to your grave grasping for a character that you never really were. Like, that shit is so fucking like on point. All right. So Megan, that concludes my questions, but that doesn't stop the questions. So right now, for folks who are in here on live, this is a great, we got Simply Sherry popping.
I'm bringing everybody in.
Yeah, let's get it. It's a party in the USA, as Miley Cyrus said. But I open it up for every, I know y'all got some questions for sure. So, yo, floor is y'all's. Let's go.
Megan and I have talked about this way before, way back, because this is when I first met her. She did a poem called Wings. And I love that piece. I think I've only ever heard it the one time you've done it at Warm Wednesdays. Is that piece retired or just something you just don't do anymore?
What was the name of it?
I believe it was called Wings, or I Wish I Had Wings was the opening.
Shit. Yeah. It's in a notebook somewhere in my house. Mm-hmm. And I have given my children and husband very explicit directions to send it all to Kaniki when I die. So you have to outlive me, Kaniki.
That's real.
Oh God, that piece was so amazing.
Make sure he sends 13th book too, because we're never gonna get it back. We're never gonna get it back.
All
right.
That's when you get it.
Well, you talked about how hard it's been to write during the quarantine and everybody being home with children, how have you been able to find other ways to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally during the past year?
Sherry, was it the poem about not having wings so you learn to love dirt?
Yes, I think.
Girl, I can read you that poem at the end of this. I got you.
Can we hear that? Also, and I don't want to even. I mean, can we do the toilet?
Oh, let the toilet one fly, because that piece, that toilet bowl.
That'd be great. But I ain't trying to.
We were at this. Me and my friends were at that slam that she did that poem. When she went into it, my entire table stood up. The host, Charity, looked at us like, "What the hell? Just watch."
That's what they said. They're like, "Yo, sit your ass down, Charity.
Just
and
learn."
Like, yes. Learn. Like you don't know what you've even signed up today.
Right.
Right. All right.
Sherry, I forgot what your question was because I was trying.
No, it was about self-care, about how you are maintaining yourself during the quarantine and everything that's been going on. I know with kids and a husband and other people in the house, that's the only thing that has spared me is that I'm in my house by myself.
I'm trying to think how employable I need to be in the next few years.
Understood.
Virginia passed some great legislation around medicinal cures for anxiety. And God bless Ralph Northam.
I completely understand that answer. I will pass it on to my friends here in the room.
Okay.
Okay. Megan, remember when I found out that you were white for real?
Yes.
It was a whole real thing, right? Because I was like, wait, you're white? She's like, Nikki, look at me. I'll say, but you're white, like all the way white. Like, it was, and we were at my house. And it was after you did the poem, and I don't know the name of the poem, but you did this poem to your son, and you were saying, your ancestors enslaved your ancestors. I know I'm paraphrasing here. And I was like, what? You're white. But anyway, so my question is, being a mother, a child of color, how have you written any more poetry in this time? Because I know you wrote that in the time that it wasn't this time. Have you written any more works in this time about that?
Honestly, Kaniki, I haven't, because I am terrified all the time.
Like most mothers.
Yes. And while there is a place to speak to white moms of mixed race children, I don't believe that other than that specific poem, it's my story to tell. I'm going to leave that to them when they're ready to talk about it. I do feel very called to talk to white people. Like, I really want to gather my folk, and like, I've been wanting to talk. Like, it sucks because the poems that I want to write right now are all like poems to racists and poems to people that don't understand that they're racist, and poems to people that keep perpetuating white supremacy, that march in Black Lives Matter protest. Like all the poems that are living in me right now are ones that are to gather my people. I think we really need to center on Black voices right now. And like, while that is our experience, that we do have two young Black men being raised in our home, and they are my sons, like, there's women that can speak to that a lot better. Now, I specifically can talk to other white moms and tell them to get their shit together and prepare their children for the world that they're going into, and to honor their history and honor their culture and their heritage, and to get them around, especially white moms who don't have the father in life, like, get them around their people. But I don't know, man. I'm just scared all the time for them, and I don't think there's a poem for me in that just yet.
Okay, I'm gonna be praying for you because we, be terrified. Like, yeah, it's not just you. You're not alone. And I wanted to know, since you had brought up about the poetry thing, because Richmond did used to be jumping poetry wise. So I want to know, if I say word, will you bring back say word?
Of course. All you gotta do is say word.
Hey,
I'll drive down there. We'll all come. We'll all come together. We'll do it together. Yes, I volunteer to drive. I'll just come down there. Y'all got to come to my house first, though. But
we were actually talking about doing a big showcase show down here sometime soon. So I would absolutely love it. I would love to do something again because Richmond did used to jump. Like it used to be a really
the way y'all talking about it, yo, like y'all make it sound like the shit. Like
it's for the one time.
I'm ready to go.
Listen, as somebody who did a lot and rode down to Richmond religiously,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also laughing at the comment. Big homie just said, "Is Kaniki? Are you calling Megan the Tina Marie of spoken word poetry?"
No, I'm calling Megan Rickman Blackwood the Megan Rickman Blackwood of poetry. That's all I'm
read.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody from the comments? I will let you know that analysis did say that white people talking sense to white people is a crucial part of the struggle. So yes, keep doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
So
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Somebody needs to work on that gathering.
Yeah, and even at Southern Fried this go round, I heard so many white poets trying to tell Black stories. And I was like, bro, we got shit to say for ours. We've got some stuff we need to deal with.
Yeah, whole separated out conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
I only caught that once.
Seriously.
I caught that once and I was like, and I'm just gonna sit here and that's a conversation I have offline. But
yeah.
Well, look, I'm white, so I can say it. White people, tell your story. Talk to our people. Trust me, there's a lot of them that need gathering. Quit trying to tell Black stories, especially Black women's stories. They can handle it.
Yeah. Come on. Come on.
I have a line. I have either a haiku or a line in a poem that says exactly that somewhere. I know I do.
They'd be like, I'm anti-racist and let me tell you about it. And I'd be like, you're going to tell a Black person about how anti-racist you are?
Then that means you're probably not anti-racist. You're
ding, 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 ding,
ding, ding, ding. I'll see if I can find that one for when we're offline because I want to say it's in my haiku stash somewhere. I know it is.
You have to tell us.
I need to see it.
Oh Lord.
I need to
send me that.
But it's though. That's the world we live in. And it's you understand that there's some folks that are because we're talking about performative in our interview before, in trying to weave out what white people are legit about this cause and just are lacking that guidance because there might be that person that's getting up there doing that poem that's really y'all, I'm doing the shit out of this. Y'all about to get these words today. And it's Black people no, though. No, that's not how it is. But then there's other folks that are out there that are just really, oh, this is the new way. Let me try to be and I feel like for me as a Black person, it's really hard to lead with empathy and grace in certain situations because you don't know intent versus impact, so that just brings up a good point for me because in my personal journey in this work, that's where I work with all white folks at my job. I'm around white people all the fucking time, so I'm just constantly in this space of okay, so where's your intention in this? I see your actions and they're wrong, but still, but your intentions matter because are you doing this and you just don't know and you're really about this fight? Because I'm all for come on board, buddy. But also on that same token, is this just some more just performative bullshit so you can be seen you're doing something and saying you're doing something So you're not coming off in a space that works with a predominantly Black community, or in a space of coming onto a stage that is supposed to be super inclusive and welcoming and understanding. Like, that's just kind of like that place. I don't even know what to call it, but that's where I'm at right now. So it's just interesting with this conversation.
Yeah, I would say, like, as a white person from the other side, like, it took Black women gathering me when I was wrong for me to understand why. Like, and that was just like, it's not labor I was owed, but they loved me enough to be like, hey, boo, no. And like, I think that now more than ever, it's important for people who have had like those generous Black people in their lives to like gather them and get them together and get them on the right side. Like, it's our job right now as white allies, like, to speak to other white allies and pass that. Because like, it's not on Black people to do the labor to get us back, like not back, because we never were, right? But like, to get us to a point where we're doing like what we're supposed to be doing. Like, we fucked it up. You shouldn't have to clean it up. Like, that's on us. Like, so if there's more white people that can get their shit together, like, hit me up. I'm trying to start an Allies for Abolition book club that will be specifically speaking to white people. And it's a group of people of color are curating our books, and it's all anti-racism platforms. So
please send us the link for that so that we can make sure it's added to all of our social media for you.
I swear to God, I have. Yes, send that information to me, please.
It's still in baby stages, but soon it's Allies for Abolition. It's happening. It's happening soon because it needs to happen.
That's what's up. The vibe that you give, Megan, like, I feel like there's very few like white folks that I come across that I feel like get it. Like, like actually, like, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, and have like the credentials to say, like, you know, I really have done my research. I have actually done the sitting and listening and processing and understanding. And a lot of like folks that I've come across, like, have this like aha moment of like, oh, I'm not as woke as I thought I was, you know what I'm saying? And have to come to terms and grips with that, and honestly, it's like almost a battle. Like, so all I'm saying is, like, I 100% agree with what analysis says, because we've been saying this shit for I don't know how fucking long. It's been coming out of our mouths for I don't know how long, and it's just been devalued, looked over. But now all the things that we've been saying forever are now starting to come full surface, and I think that we're tired. So it has to be like the torch got to get past at this point, because unless y'all gonna start paying motherfuckers for this knowledge, young,
bing, 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 bing.
You know,
no free labor,
no free labor, young, no free labor at this point. But no, for real, like, it's gonna have to start coming from folks like you who really get it, who are part of the community, and yo, like, you have a well-grounded foundation to like uplift this work. So I'm really happy to hear that that's something that you're doing. And please send me that information, because I promise you, I have some folks that will be joining your shit.
Very cool.
Like ASAP. Like, we'll be joining your shit for real. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any other questions from the chat. But
there's nothing else from the chat. It's I think it's just down to, you know, the usual last question. So
y'all
I got a question.
Yes.
Hey, how was it slamming on virtual for Southern Pride?
Oh,
I was gonna mention something about that too.
Well, we're fifth, and that's cool. We're fifth in the world, Craig. I guess, I don't know. There was teams from Abu Dhabi there, so I'm gonna say in the world.
Yeah, say in the world, because there was 3 or 4 international teams this year.
Right.
So we get to say in the world. It was okay. I missed being in the room for poems. There's something tangible about like being in the energy when people are like just breaking wide open, and like that happens in Southern Pride. Like you'll spit a poem. I spit that poem that I spit at the beginning of this that I've spit a bazillion times, and I was like sobbing when I was done because it's something different about being in that competition. And God bless them. Cuban, like Adam, the entire team put on an amazing job doing what they did. I don't never want to do it again though.
We're gonna be back. We're gonna be back in the person.
Hopefully soon.
Next year is Louisville.
Yep.
And the year after that, I think they announced Knoxville.
Yeah, but I mean, before that, there's a slam in July around Kanicki Way. That's what I'm saying.
Yep, there's that.
Right. Yeah, she in it. Come on, Charity, and slam.
Huh?
Come through. Listen, if you show up, I'll show up, Charity.
You haven't done
an in-person event since March of last year.
But you can't go. Wait, whoa! You cannot go because it's the same day as Sherry Slam.
Yeah, that's it.
What day is that?
What day is that?
It's the 23rd.
Okay, so the child will not be with me.
Hopefully,
the force and the child will not be in person.
Does it start at 9?
Yeah, we start at 9.
You can make it.
I've done it before. I've left Kanicki's event to show up in Busboys. I've done it before.
Wait a second. Go ahead, Charity.
I said what I had to motherfucking say.
No. I have left the Kanicki event to show up at a Busboys event. So I can pull it off.
You can do it.
If I can pull it off, you ain't got no excuse. I'm talking to you. Talking to you, Charity Blackwell. You're in my bottom left corner.
Yeah. Girl, let's holler at me, girl. Jeans. Let's talk. I had to.
I won't know until we get close to July whether or not we'll still be online or whether we'll be in person.
Oh, we about. I just want to. Hey, I'm making this announcement right now.
Hold up. We're gonna spotlight Charity for this announcement because I know the news I need to hear. Go ahead, Charity.
That's not Charity. That's you.
I know it went to me.
Sherry, get me on. Oh, okay. Hey, friends. Yeah, so we about to keep the mic on to in person, y'all. Like, shout out to all our followers who've been following us in this virtual platform. It's been real. But listen, we're going to continue to do this thing and keep it moving, keep it popping. But we are officially going to start moving in person by the end of July. This joint is going to be accessible, still virtual, because we'll still try to live stream it and do all that stuff, whatever. But we are really impressed and happy with how much people have been, responding to this platform and the artists that we've been able to bring and the culture that we've been able to continue to cultivate throughout this interesting time in the world. And I think that we're ready to see y'all in front, close and personal, because it's time, y'all.
It's time for somebody to be walking around a room with a microphone.
It's about time for that. It's time for us to be able to hug each other, hold each other, be there and answer questions in person. This virtual space has been beautiful. Don't get it twisted, y'all. Do not get it twisted. This virtual space has been beautiful and necessary. But we've also have discovered something really special within this virtual space that we are now ready to move on to the next level, which is doing something in person, So, yeah. Kanicki, you did miss this memo.
So did I.
Everyone missed. Simply Sherry misses memo, and I was honestly just talking, and then when I had to get on like the big screen by myself, I'm just saying, this is the direction that we're moving. I think we talked about it a little bit, but this is where we're going eventually. So we'll talk later after this, ladies. We'll talk.
Okay. So
just made an announcement that we didn't even know that was
right.
that we didn't know. I was like,
the announcement I was expecting, but okay.
but I will say that we came up with this idea on a Tuesday. Sunday we was live. We was not playing. So like anybody can do it.
Anything's possible, man.
Anything's possible. Anybody. We didn't know what we was doing, but we was doing it.
We know nothing.
And we love doing it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
do we want to do last question then poem, or poem then last question?
Let's do
last
question then poem and wrap it up.
Last question then poem. Okay.
Last
question is always, now that you have been on the show and you've seen how this works, or at least this portion of it, but we keep in mind that the other topics are books and from behind the microphone and poets and platforms. Who do you think we should have on the show? We take suggestions for guests. We keep a running list. Your name has been on this list for a while. I'm glad we got you in here. So now that we've done this,
Roscoe.
We had Roscoe last year.
We had Roscoe.
He was in our first season, I guess.
Who else you have?
Hold up, she spit somebody to me earlier. Hold up. CP
Mays.
CP Mays, yes, that's a good one.
CP Mays.
Yeah,
Matthew Cuban Hernandez is another good one.
We had Cuban and Alicia on the show together.
Oh, you got the twofer.
Yes.
Good. It's always good when poets marry. Like when you get to go to Nikki's house and it's like Nikki and 13.
And I'll just for the audience that is watching today, by the end of the summer, we're going to be uploading as many of our old episodes as we have. We're working out how much of it and where it's all going to be, and actually how much of it we actually have. Because again, there was a period of time in here that we didn't know what we were doing. We were just interviewing artists and having a good time.
Right. Some of it was in Zoom, some of it was kind of half on Facebook, and then we cut it, and then the rest of it, then we decided to keep all of it on Facebook, and now we've transitioned to Facebook and YouTube.
So it's a little bit of everywhere.
Right.
Have you guys Kenneth something yet?
Who?
Kenneth from Baltimore. Kenneth
yes,
something.
We did a roundtable with Kenneth something.
You have to be watching
all of the ones I believe that you just mentioned.
They should be still on Facebook.
Still live on Facebook. If you go to Facebook videos, they all live in our video archives. All the interviews.
I'm about to be on that horde.
And they were all really good, and they were all so good. This show is pretty much the commentary is this is a masterclass.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and as you know, we've had Talam.
Lamar
is our Moby Dick at this point.
Lamar. We're gonna go to Lamar house and do a pop-up.
We're gonna have to go get Lamar physically.
Right. Keep the mic on when Lamar here who wouldn't come to us.
And I know some of the lineup for the next couple of weeks. And
girl, tell us who's lined up. Who's next couple of weeks?
Next week is me, and I have from Baltimore. As part of the Big Little Band, internationally known singer and songwriter, poet Mark Avon Evans, because it is Black Music Month, and that is why I picked him.
And then my week, right? Then my week, we're ending this month with the one, the only Godchild, the only.
Oh yes,
that part.
And then also coming later this summer on my segments, I have Kat McGill from
you got Kat.
I got Kat for July, and I can't remember the name, from Screen Time Slam. As I've already mentioned, in August, I have Vision coming back. So we have
and we have Queen Sheba coming up around
when we rescheduled our roundtable with Queen Sheba. And we rescheduled the roundtable with Queen Sheba for August, so that's happening.
And I have my feelers out for somebody, and my fingers are hard crossed that they eventually answer. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I'm hoping for one for August. I have one on deck for August. That's gonna be like, oh my God, please! I hope I can get this person.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'm happy to make the Maze recommendation. That's the one that I'm
yes.
If you know how to get in touch with them, and you can let us know, that would be great. Okay.
You've been phenomenal. person tonight. You've been
You
amazing.
guys are phenomenal.
Let's everybody clap it up for Megan Rickman Blackwood.
I'm gonna shut up and mute myself.
I am
That's all.
so. I'm like the, you know, I just work with these ladies. These ladies I work with are phenomenal. They always consistently put me on the folks. And I swear, and I apologize. Sherry, let me apologize. I apologize, okay? That day that you came to my slam and I said, well, who's Megan? And they all said, ooh, like it was unison, like, oh my goodness, you don't know, bitch. Da, da, da. Well, you gonna
and those judges were hating that night. And
that's a whole nother conversation. But, yeah, but I don't know if it was hating or just like you just should not have been judging. Mm-hmm. So my point is, I am constantly getting schooled. I'm constantly getting, you know, what the fuck? How you ain't know these people? And I be looking, I'm like, bitch, I know everybody. And then I'm like, no, I really don't know shit, because I'm constantly being introduced to amazing poets. And you did an amazing job at my night, but also just getting to know you on a deeper level tonight. I'm so happy that we crossed paths and that I have people in my network who know really amazing and dope artists. And so, yeah, you're one of a kind, you're special. And I definitely want to leave the floor open for you to end this night with whichever poem that you choose. You've heard, you know, there's been a couple, you know, I said this and Sherry said that, you know, but I just want to leave the floor for you to do whichever you choose. So I'm
gonna be old and put my glasses on and read this poem. It's the one that Sherry was talking about. Just because I did toilet bowl over the Southern Fried Week, so I think it's about 16, Charity. You should be able to look it up, and it's probably the best I've spit it in a long time. So go cop that. It's on YouTube. It's free. I think it's like about 16. But this is the poem Sherry was talking about, and it has been retired, but I am working on a book that should be out by the end of the year, and this poem came back to it. So I'm going to read it to you guys. I said, I think you're beautiful under my breath when I was sure you were not listening. I've had visions. Your fingers slowly lacing our sun sneakers. The single tear that will water the bouquet of lilies our daughter will carry the day you give her away, the moon reflecting in your eyes as we make love for the 1086th time, the lilac you will carry to my grave every day as you try to remember the good times that will come too seldom. I will never tell you of these dreams I've had of our future because I love you too much to let you love me. I am not safe. My fingernails and edges know no polish, just jagged pieces that will tear flesh from frame if you come too close. Do not come too close. You are far too fragile for my whirlwind, where spit and shattered glass will spin around you, skin you alive, leave you longing for a death that will come slow. Do not dare reach for kisses. My teeth have been replaced with rusted razors, and the taste of innocent blood never once quench my thirst for revenge. I am hungry for salvation and will devour your soul if you let me. Do not let me. Women like me are wingless butterflies who have forgotten how to cocoon into delicate, so we learn to love dirt. We rub it in our wounds to slow the bleeding and then claw our way towards the sun every month. Concurrent with lunar cycles, I spit clots, remnants of men much stronger than you. My pussy smells of Ninth Ward, and I moan like levees breaking. So recognize and run. Run until your legs burn worse than my memories and your chest collapses under the weight of my wounds. Do not look back, for I have shaven serpents from my skull, but I still carry stone in my iris, and you are far too majestic to silhouette into statue, left ruin in my wake. Word. I love you guys.
Good God, that's God. Girl.
What a flying fuckery. What in the flying fuckery was
That part.
All of that part. Megan is wait a minute. Let's go back because I've been Busboy 6 years now. Megan was actually my first feature when I came on the Busboys.
Your very first one when you got
my very
Busboy.
first feature.
Made me so happy.
Yeah, and I had to
4th, 5th, and
no. When I was at 5th and K, when I came on board.
And wasn't I your first at 450K too? I was either I was one of the first. Yeah.
I think so. I think you were also my first at 450K Street as well. Yeah. Shoot. I'm trying to get somebody to be my first one to come back when I come back. But if I can't work that out,
I think
I'm going to call you.
That's wild.
No,
Megan stay popping your That's what's up.
I've been trying to book this one feature, and every time I book it, something happens. So I'm going to get everybody. All right. We will be back next week, this time, 7 p.m., with, again, singer-songwriter, internationally known, Mark Avon Evans, who is an amazing artist. So everyone, please stay safe, wash your hands, wear your mask. We are very excited that you are all here, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you guys.
Y'all the best.
Love you, Megan.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Bye.